Hello, friends. Today we are talking about depression and anxiety. We all go through a lot of experiences in our life. Some are good and some are not so good. And these not so good memories and experiences sometimes keep us in a state where we feel that we are so depressed. And sometimes these depression lead us to some kind of an addiction. So, what's the solution to this? Myself, Nimika Keshri. I'm a Mohanji Acharya from Finland. And today I'm in conversation with Laurie Pan. She's also a Mohanji Acharya from USA and she's an IT professional. Laurie has been recovering from addiction and she has had depression issues for a long time, almost 18 years now. And in her quest for this emotional sobriety and relief from the suicidal depression, she has tried many different ways and different methods, including these 12-step recovery groups. She also tried professional therapy and some medications and many other ways to come out of this state. While all of these things were really helping her a lot, but then only when she met Mohanji and she started following his teachings and meditations, that's when she felt that the changes are lasting, and this made a great difference in her life. She now is so focused and has a purpose, and the purpose is that she has now started a special kind of meditation meetings that is called conscious recovery meditation meetings, which is the purpose of this is to help others who are suffering from depression and who have uh, been addicted and are trying to recover from these addictions. So I'm welcoming Laurie. Welcome, Laurie, and I hope that today the viewers would be really interested to know about your journey, how you overcome these problems in your life, and most of all, what was the problems that you faced in person. That would be good to know.
Thank you. Thank you, Nimika. I appreciate it. And I appreciate the opportunity to, discuss the conscious recovery meditation meetings. And yes, so I am, like Nimika said, my name is Laurie Ann, and I am a recovering alcoholic and addict. I, it basically, I've been in recovery for the last 18 plus years, but everything really started, of course, a lot earlier than that. My childhood was a rough one. It was very violent. Um, my mom was an addict, and she, had all of the attending sort of, issues. Rage was a big component. I grew up with a lot of physical and physical and verbal abuse. It was pretty much a daily occurrence until I was about 14, when I got old enough to when I got bigger, really, when I got taller and bigger, and I let her know at 14 that she can't hit me anymore. But it was also it was the neighborhoods where we grew up. We were always moving all the time. I grew up, definitely lower middle class by American standards, in the New York area. We moved so much due to lack of money, and I was often the new kid in school. And of course, back then, I'm definitely a little older, but back then it was rough. It was rough to be the new kid in school, but kind of probably the way I was treated at home. When I got it out in the playground or I got it at school, I was like, "That's all you got," I was really I want to say I wasn't a tough kid. That's what's interesting. I wasn't. My heart was always this my heart was, even as a kid, I still like it was like every day was a new day. And I just systematically, I remember thinking I would just have a good attitude, and then boom, it was like, it was interesting how I was able to maintain still a kind attitude towards people for the most part. It wasn't until I got older and I was really out on my own. So I left the house when I was 17. I had just turned 17. I lied about my age and I got a job in a different state. And I worked for a while, and then, I couldn't wait to get out of the house. So as I ended up traveling, I worked enough to get a one-way ticket to to Paris. I always wanted to live in the cities that were on the perfume bottles, Paris, London, and Tokyo.
Mhm.
And I ended up doing that. So I ended up becoming very scrappy, very self-reliant. But then as the years went on, those early years as I left, I toughened up real fast and I became a very hardened, hard person. No one ever mollycoddled me. I'm not going to mollycoddle you. I got very rigid and very harsh, and kids who, people who had it handed to them, I had a lot of resentment towards, and I had no time at all. If you couldn't figure out how to get yourself out of a situation or a jam, I wanted nothing to do with you. I'm not your mama. Don't, you know, so it was very, very, very tough. Um, I turned into that. And with that, the drinking increased. So those two went hand in hand. Probably as I drank and used more drugs, I became more hardened, and I was in areas that were more hardened, and people who were much hardened and more hardened. But I used to pride myself on the fact that I wasn't really afraid of of much in the way of people. But it was a reckless, kind of, it was all anger driven. So my rage was now developing. My rage, that being handed down, my mom to me, now it has been handed to me. So God help the poor child. That was my first daughter when you know when I got pregnant. um I had fallen in love with her dad, and then we got pregnant. And it was during my pregnancy that suicidal depression first hit me. And um and I was really scared. I had this feeling in the back of my mind that I wasn't going to be able to be a better mother than my mom, because I just hadn't seen any other way. It's like, you don't just naturally, everybody wants to be different from how they're brought up, but you only know what you only know what was modeled for you. You don't just naturally become a better mother because you can. I wanted it so badly. But anyway, I couldn't commit suicide because I was not willing to do anything to the baby. So in a way, my daughter probably saved both our lives at the time, um, which is, it is what it is. And yeah, and so of course my decisions weren't based in any kind of healthy emotional state. Um, and so, I didn't, the relationship didn't last with her dad, and we ended up, um, getting a divorce. And my daughter was very little, and she would go back and forth. And I knew that I was not being the kind of mother I wanted to be. And it was, I had so much emotional pain anyway from everything, from the trauma and everything. And I was in therapy, and therapy was helping marginally. Um, but when I would, when it was her dad's turn, thank God I didn't drink or use when I was on duty. That was some kind of grace. I would think about it, and I was like, no, I'll bring her to her dad's. But then once I brought her to her dad's and I was by myself, it was no holds barred. And so it got to be where that was where I got so down on myself and I was in such a bad place that it was like I couldn't wait to get her to her dad's, because then I could just escape. And it continued that way for a while, until I met my son's dad, and that was about 8 years. And so my daughter had to endure some of the. I never used physical violence, but my daughter had to endure some of the same verbal abuse, and some of just the harshness that I grew up with. You know, um, and I loved her dearly, but it just, all my fears, all my anxieties, didn't translate to the kind of mother I wanted to be. So, but moving forward, I ended up falling into uh, recovery, the rooms, and because I didn't like my next husband's drinking. I noticed, I mean, he drank way more than me, and I noticed it was I started to realize it was a problem, and but I just didn't realize how bad. And then it kind of hit me, and then to point fingers at me, I was going to Al-Anon meetings because I didn't like his drinking, and then people were like, "You sound like you drank. You sound like you have an issue," and I was like, "No." And but anyway, so I eventually came in into the rooms myself, and just didn't think I was an alcoholic. I'd never had a DUI. I'd never gotten in trouble with the law. I've never, you know, I don't know. I didn't drink every day. It wasn't until much later that I realized I can use anything addictively. I can chew gum addictively. So addiction is addiction is addiction. If you are going to keep doing something because you don't want to have a thought, or you can't stand the emotions and you can't stop doing it, and likely it's having some negative consequence, well, maybe I need to look at, finally realized I needed to look at all of it. But, so fast forward, I was always on the quest, though, to be a better person. That's the only thing I can say. It was like I always knew that I wanted to be better than what I was, and I did take action. I listened to people. I took direction. So I went to therapy. I took direction from the therapist. I was on medications for a while. The depression would just cycle around. And if there were too many big life stressors, like I was a single mom, I lost I was in a car accident where I was injured and my car was totaled and I didn't have money to replace it. And like too many life stressors, I remember I went down, and I ended up at one point, and I was sober for like a couple of years. I ended up being hospitalized for suicidal depression. And because I got scared, I had a failed attempt. I started to attempt to do it, and I changed my mind. And, it was this horrible place where I'm doing it, I'm not doing it, I'm doing it, I'm not doing it. I check myself in. So, but it would cycle around, and I did everything they told me to do. I was only in there outpatient for 2 weeks. And I just was like, buck up, the story of my life, pick yourself up and let's go, come on. But it's so anyway, again, different modalities, trying everything. The medications were not working. Instinctively, I knew they weren't good for me. A couple of times I had a plan for myself, that if I got that bad again, what I used to do is I would drive to the local hospital, where they had a psych ward, and I would just sit in the parking lot and I would wait for either the intense, it was like an anxiety and depression together. Mine was always like this anxiety depression bomb. And I would just sit there. So I had a plan, and that just the plan alone, I didn't have to use it. So that was kind of interesting. It was then that I started to put together tools, really did work. Plus I was working the 12 steps now at this time. And yes, I'm talking about this, but I'm not a member, so to speak, of anything right now.
Mhm.
But I worked the 12 steps for years. I worked them as prescribed. They were wonderful building blocks to getting your way back to yourself, for looking at yourself, for being honest with yourself, for doing specific things, practical things you can do to change yourself, set the stage, brings you back to your spirituality. It's, there are a lot of wonderful things about that program. And after years of really working it hard, I was still very disturbed to find out, why am I still hitting these terrible moments of depression? And it really reached, it really reached a height when I had a friend was going to help me buy a gun. And I told my friend that it was for protection, but it wasn't. Um, and, you know, it was about this time too. I had started to, just before that, I'd started to follow Mohanji. And I had been introduced to him by a follower of his. And then she told me about upcoming events, and I ended up going to like one with, he wasn't there yet, I hadn't met him yet, but I started going to things. And then I started to take their direction. I mean, I was desperate to try something else, but I had a feeling that I kept striving. I kept knowing that the answer lay in my spirituality, the growth of my spirituality. I knew instinctively that was where I was going to find real help. And so I knew things were different when I was starting to get connected with Mohanji and starting to practice his meditations, and things started to get, so my head would pop up above the water so I wouldn't drown.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kept me afloat. And then when then I met him, and we, you know, still I took direction there. And I remember at one of the retreats, I was so upset with myself because I thought, here you've met your guru and you still are in this terrible depression. I thought I was scared. There was no hope for me. I was really, really terrified. And I remember I stood up at the last satsang of the retreat because I knew it was now or never. And I said, I'm trying to save my own life. And Mohanji said, come talk to me after. And I waited in line with everybody. And then when it got to be my turn, he just gave me some simple, things to do. And I just did them like my life depended on it, because it did. And things started to get better. Things started to get better. But it took my it took my taking the direction. It took my staying and being consistent and adding these new tools of meditation and chanting
Mm-hmm.
to make any real change. And I would have to choose actively when I was in a state. Okay, are you going to do breathing? Are you going to breathe? Are you going to pick up, what tool are you going to pick up now? Come on, pick up a tool. And so that's where I think the change occurred. And then just staying connected and staying connected to the group, and then but staying connected, and then trying to practice the principles, which is really hard when you're an angry mess. Very, very hard. Very hard to practice kindness, compassion, unconditional love when you're a rageful, angry mess. And I'm going to admit right now that I catch myself often where I'm going into an anger, and I've got to catch myself and pull it right back down, and then go, okay, are we breathing? Where am I? What's going on? Just, there's a lot of programming there that's not going to be deprogrammed overnight. There's a lot of pain. There's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of everything that is being worked out. It's just, thank God, I have other tools to use.
Yeah, that's so good that you found the right tools at the right time that helped you out of this state. And as you said in your talk that you knew that spirituality is going to help you some way or the other. So was it something that that was there inside you that you have to go in a spiritual path, or was it something triggered inside you that pulled you towards spirituality?
Well, it's interesting. So we grew up in a religious household, a sort of a very interesting um, Catholic, but then my mom was connected to her sort of uh, claimed Native American roots. So we were very connected to nature, but also we did do we did do the religious stuff. My dad was Italian, and but then my mom dabbled in a lot of things. So I remember as a kid, I remember I remember being very aware of what felt godly, what felt good, what felt light, as opposed to some of the things that my mother was trying that felt dark, that, you know,
Mhm.
that didn't feel right to me. So even as a child, I had there was a compass, I guess, that sort of would at least would let me know what light was. Obviously, obviously I didn't follow it, or it wouldn't have taken me so long to get back, because I was probably already there. I was probably already there, but I think that's a common story, right? I was
Yeah.
already there. I walked away, and took the long route, the long hard route. But yeah, so but even as I had other teachers, so as I got older and as I was going through the steps and doing that, was like building on it. And then I branched out and tried other things that felt like they were more, more God centered. Um, Not religious though. I did try that, didn't work.
Mhm.
I it was like, so it's the difference between we're going to practice kindness, compassion, and unconditional love. It's hearing those words, and those are the words we're going to focus on rather than anything else.
Yes.
And so that's where my compass was
Yeah.
following again.
That's really good. How was it that Mohanji came to your life?
I literally chance. Well, it's not chance. Why did I even say chance? um, Hello. I had to do a total life change. We were living in Alexandria at the time, Virginia, and we had to do a complete life change. My son got an opportunity to play basketball at a private school, and his dream was to play college basketball.
Mhm.
So we moved 56 miles to a rural area. I sold my house. I, and we picked up, and my son and I moved, um, and without my husband.
Mhm.
Ended up getting a divorce, but and then it was me and my son out in this area where we knew no one. And I didn't realize it was going to be as different as it was. So, you know, so I just happened to meet this person in this little town. I was at a cafe in the little town, and I ended up meeting this person, and we just kind of sensed that we both had like a deeper sense of spirituality as and then we made a time to meet for dinner later. And what during dinner, we were talking about our teachers, and then of course she told me about her teachers, her teacher,
Yeah.
um, and then we just kind of developed a friendship. I mean, the way it happened was really good, and I would call her, and she would give me little chants and things to do, because I was so new to all of this. It was so foreign to me. And then one day, literally, we were on the phone, and she says, "You need a guru." And I was like, "What?" I'm like, "Okay." But but I was not, but I listened to her, because the other things she had given me to do were working or felt like they could work. And so I listened to her, and then she told me about an upcoming retreat, which was a Maitri retreat with Swami Bhaktananda.
Uh-huh.
And so I actually went to this retreat, and it was so foreign to me. All I knew nothing about Hindu and Indian, any of the spirituality. And I was just kind of watching everything going, whoa, what is this? What is this? A little bit like nervous as well. Am I, what is this with all the deities? And then I remember one time, so Swamiji was starting to do a chant, and all of a sudden I felt this energy come into the room, and I went, oh my goodness, I bet that's the guru. And Swamiji was like, the guru is here, or Mohanji is here, he said. And I was like, I knew it, but Mohanji wasn't there. Obviously it was presence without presence.
Yeah.
And so that's how I really met him for the first time.
Wow.
And yeah. And so I didn't actually meet him physically until the following, I think it was the following year and a half, maybe year later, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. So how has it been with him as a journey, like from meeting him and until becoming an acharya? How do you feel your life has changed?
Um, it has changed. Well, it has changed a lot. I mean, so many ways, from being, my awareness and consciousness of my own behaviors and actions are like right in my face. And so, which is good because I want to change them. So I'm constantly aware. And the devotion had to grow because it was foreign to me.
Yes.
Bhakti is a foreign, for me. I will not speak for I won't act like I'm all Americans. I won't act like I'm all anything, but for me it was foreign to me. And so that has grown as I've seen that, and plus I didn't believe anybody had my back. I didn't believe anybody had my back. I had to do it all myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, but then there was a time, these last years, it was at Acharya training, actually. It was at Acharya training when I realized he's got my back. Like someone has my back.
Oh, wow.
Someone actually is standing behind me and has my back. And, so you can imagine I am, I'm 50, I'm going to be 55, and literally most of those years feeling like nobody had my back. It's a long time. That's a long time to be on hypervigilant duty. My whole life was hypervigilance, and probably in fight or flight almost my entire life. So only now am I starting to come down out of fight or flight. And that comes from knowing, that someone has my back, understanding devotion, doing the meditations, being able to slow it all down, like they're all working together.
Okay, coming from a different culture, now you know something very different, an Indian culture, and then as you said, so what inspired you actually to become as an acharya?
Well, so while I was attending different, I would go to any Acharya program in my area. So other Acharyas
Mm-hmm.
were having programs. I would go to all of them.
Okay.
And I remember, and she was like, at one point, there were some brought up, if you guys can think about ways to engage people. And I remember that during my morning practice, I was always doing like a yoga plus the, when I started doing the consciousness kriya, I would imagine I was leading, I was leading a group.
Wow.
And it was just like natural. I was just imagining leading groups, and I was like, oh, and I could do this. And what about if we did that? And how do I appeal to people like me? And how do I, and at that time I was like commuting like 1.5 minimum hours each way, often 2 each way, 4 hours in the car. And I was just like, I was realizing that some of the yoga moves were helping to at least counteract all that. So I would imagine a whole program with yoga and a meditation, and so I just was starting it was I was thinking about it all the time. And then chance found a couple of people mentioned it, and then there's sort of a saying that if you hear about, if something comes to you 3 times, it's for you.
Yeah. Definitely.
And so I knew it wasn't for, but I at least thought I'd try.
Yeah.
And I figured just the intensive prep for it, I knew would be good for me, because I knew I would learn a lot, and I knew that it was what I needed to learn. I knew I needed to know that stuff anyway, even if I didn't make it as an acharya,
Mhm.
that information would be helpful.
So earlier, did you ever try like hosting some program as in meditations or something before being an acharya?
No, I didn't. I
Okay.
didn't.
That's so good to know that you got inspired and you continued. And how does this conscious recovery meditation meetings, this idea came to you? How this clicked and what is it about?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the conscious recovery meditation meetings. Well, they're of course they're similar. They're similar. Their format is similar to a 12-step or a recovery meeting.
Mhm.
However, where I'm using Mohanji's meditations, that high vibrational meditation, um, and we don't, it's not necessarily it's not discussed until maybe afterwards, but it's an actual meeting. It's got a format. It has readings. We have a common purpose. The readings are read in the beginning of the meeting. Then we read the prayer, and then we do 3 deep breaths, and then we start the meditation.
Mhm.
But one of the biggest things that we do is we state our first name before we start the meditation, and 1 or 2 words how we're currently feeling. And
Mhm.
then we do that again after the meditation. And I did that because I knew that it would help prove to people. I don't know about anybody else, but I know that I know that these groups will appreciate it being proven to them that the meditation worked. And literally almost every time someone will say first word is anxiety, or I'm upset, or I'm anxious, or I'm angry, or I'm scared, and then once we're done the meditation, the words are I'm calmer. Oh, I feel relief. You know, I don't I feel much less anxiety, or it's so. And those are the words that we're striving for as people struggling with addiction, depression. Those are the words that we're hoping to be able to say about ourselves.
So
But yeah, go ahead.
yeah, so I was just asking that as you said that it is similar to the 12-step process. You have attended, I think, the other one as well. So how did you find that this is much more effective and about your experiences you have had? Well, I think you have been conducting these sessions quite often now. So
Yeah.
how you feel the changes or some experiences that you would like to share from those meetings?
Yeah. Well, so I think all meetings are, or anything that you do. There are many, many, many recovery groups in the world, not just 12-step. And I've been to a lot of different ones, and I think they've all been very helpful for sure. This is different in the sense that we are focusing on practicing positivity. Most, as you know, by my background, which is not unusual when you're in these rooms, when you're in these different meetings. I'm not, many are coming from extreme trauma, it's a common thing, that's why we all self-medicated, for one reason or another. Whatever it is about you that made it hard for you or that you chose to self-medicate, um, so there's a lot of negativity in a lot of those meetings, and a lot of that is necessary in the beginning. You need to hear your story, you need to relate. It's all about, can I relate to you, um, and but what happens is there comes a time when, I mean, you can't, and in those meetings too, you want to focus, quote, well, there's a lot of sayings, focus on the solution. And the solution is gratitude. The solution is, is changing your attitude and taking steps to change your attitude, your outlook. And or following, using the tools to change your attitude, change your outlook. But so here in this meeting, it's just entirely positive focused. It's not an instead of, it's not, this is instead of your other meetings. It's add this to, and then, but a lot of people, once they add it, they want to stay in that they're finding, because the reality is you grow what you're focusing on. So if you're going to focus on the positivity, you're going to focus on kindness, compassion, and unconditional love, that's going to grow in your life, right? Mm-hmm. And then, not to get woo woo, but then, you raise your vibration, you feel better. You feel better. You're in those higher vibrational, higher frequency emotions. And so you feel better. There's why. I don't do anything without a payoff. I'm a classic addict. If there's no payoff, I'm not doing it, So, and it's not even conscious all the time. So, I wouldn't be expending all this energy if it didn't have a payoff for me. And the payoff is I feel better. I don't want to die when I'm practicing positivity in this manner, and it really is still for me, I still have to watch those moods. I have to watch what I take in, I have to be very, very careful with that. And this has taught me that too. This has really taught me that. And you did ask, how did I come up with the idea? And it was during Acharya training. Mm-hmm. I was working, we were tasked to do a presentation for Mohanji on how we would present, one of his methods or his, meditations or any of his different practices that he promotes on his website.
Yeah.
Mohanji.org. And so, but I had prepared something and I'd worked really hard on it. And then I was just kind of sitting at lunch one day, and all of a sudden it literally felt like it was downloaded. It felt like it was coming in a download. It was, someone was asking me something. We were talking about addiction, and all of a sudden it clicked. It went, just put them together,
Yeah.
And the idea is to just try to help others like me. And at first I thought it was going to be people with a lot of time in recovery who were looking to kind of lift and go to a different level spiritually. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of newcomers. I've had people in there like, this is my first AA meeting, or this is my, and I'm like, well, it's not an AA meeting. But this is my first, seriously, and so we let them know, that what it is, but they have stayed, and and so they came in this way. So I no longer am gonna put what I think, what I think doesn't matter. It's just, I'm putting it out there. Whoever is drawn to come will come, and I will be happy that they're there, but the idea is just to help spread it. I want to live today. I could not, it is such a big deal that I just would want to spread whatever tools that I've learned, to just give that. So in case it can help somebody else, especially a single mom who might be thinking about not staying in this current life, their current life, this current incarnation. We don't want to do that. And also, being with Mohanji and believing, what happens when one commits suicide. But the very scientific statistical fact is that when a mom or a parent does it, a child is 50% more likely to choose that option as well.
That's true.
Not a legacy, not a legacy I can afford to leave, with my children. Won't do that to them. I've done enough, and I'm not getting down on myself, but I'm saying I've done enough. I can do no harm. Do no harm is also has to first extend to my own children, my own family.
Yeah. So how do you have a vision with this particular thing that you have come up with? And do you have like a plan that you have had?
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to see, really as many people as possible be able to take advantage of it, to be able to attend the meetings and just, like I said, it's like a real. It's so when I say it's a meeting with a format, we do all that. We do the meditation, and then we have sharing, open sharing.
Mhm.
And the open sharing without crosstalk means you share what you need to. Nobody comments on it. This isn't a support session. I'm not a therapist. It's so that's what, it's just there, for support. So you can share what you need to. And people still intensely negative stuff that's going on. But somehow, because it's in this container of this particular format, it there's still an uplifting, or they're able to be uplifted out of it. And so I'm just trying to reach as many people, as many, people who are interested in this as possible. That's really my only goal at this point, to reach as many as possible,
So if
whether or not they continue, and then, because we don't talk about Mohanji during the meetings. I mean, they hear his voice in the meditation, and after the meetings, sometimes people will ask me questions. But it's process as they come. They want to know, and then we don't do that during the meeting. It's done after the meeting closes. There, I'm always available for support, and I tend to do at least probably 40-45 minutes to an hour of counts of just sort of support, you know
yeah,
peer counseling, peer counseling afterwards.
yeah. So how do people reach out to you if there are viewers who are watching this video who really need this support? So how do they reach out to you?
So right now, I'm going to be we are right now, I'm online, and it's advertised, at a, certain sort of, recovery websites. But we're soon going to be, on the platform called In the Rooms, which
And
is yeah, which is a global recovery community. So these meetings will be available on that platform. So one just goes on to In the Rooms, and um, creates an account, and you know
that's
and
really,
then they access it through there. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do it.
yeah, because I feel that there might be many people who really need it, and they need it globally. Of course, this is something a global issue. And
Yeah, and right now there is a website called, the Token Shop, and that the token TOKEN. Those in recovery will know what that means. And so this meeting is advertised on their meeting list on their website.
okay, that's good to know. Uh,
Yeah.
that's good to know. And do you want to give any suggestions to people, those who are going through depression or are in a already in a recovery mode or still in an addiction? Some kind of a help that you can provide to them. Some tips.
Sure. Well, I have to say that, those annoying sayings that we do hear, especially the one, this too shall pass, but it does pass. The critical thing is that when it passes, you make a mental note to yourself. It passed. It passed. I'm now here. It's, if you can do anything you can do to get in the present moment, we have most of us with depression who are trying to change that have been to massive amounts of therapy, massive, we've done a lot of things.
Yeah.
But some of the things where if you can just get in the present moment, my biggest one for me is go outside and just sit or just look at the trees, just look at plant, something very tangible. Just get outside, take a deep breath. The biggest thing is breath. Just take a deep breath. You don't have to do anything fancy. In one of our meditation meetings, we do the 4x4x4 breath, which is used widely. And we do that breath because it's very easy to remember. And that breath has gotten me out of an absolute panic attack and a rage attack. That's something that those of you who have that know what that is. That breathing, I just forced, I started to breathe and just sat down and just, you breathe in for the count of 4, you hold for the count of 4, you breathe out for the count of 4. Do it at least, all you have to do is, even if you do it once really well, you just do it once, already you can feel that you are able to get yourself down. Then do it again, and just 3 times. It takes literally like a minute. It's the quickest thing. But it is possible to self-regulate your emotions. It is possible. I am living proof it is possible. And I still am living with all this. So these are the tools I use. I use breathing. And I use breathing. I now also use chanting, even if you just sit and chant Om, but if that sounds too foreign, like I said, the breathing, go outside, just take a deep breath. And it sounds crazy, but just, put your hand on the tree. Just put your hand on the tree. You don't even have to hug the tree. If you hug the tree, that's great. Sit with your back on the tree. Just sit with your back on the tree. Just sit there and breathe. That's all you got to do. That's it. If you can do that, if you can get outside, if you have a balcony and you don't have a tree, get out on your balcony. Just look at a cloud. Just breathe. Those things immediately get you out of whatever's going on. Because if you stay in the current physical location with the current stimulus that's going on, it's very hard to change you've got to actively change that what's happening, if you can.
That's so true. Right now, as you said, to do this breathing, I tried it and it really immediately felt so relaxed.
it
And
it is amazing. And we have all those great breathing exercises that I love, but this one is the only one we use in these meetings, just because. So Tuesdays is our beginners meeting. So we do this breathing exercise and we only do a 10-minute meditation. So it's for beginners. And that's all we do. And that breathing exercise is critical for self-regulating. Nothing will work better. But we all run away from it. Even myself, I did too, until the pain outweighed the not doing something about it. The pain was too great. I had to take action. And so this breathing exercise, any breathing exercise, if you have your own, great. But this breathing exercise is easy to remember and it really works. It literally seems to lower the blood pressure.
oh, wow,
Yeah.
that's so wonderful. I hope these tips are really useful to people because, at some point of time when you are so depressed, you don't know what to do. At that point of time, you just really need to know some small tricks so that this can help you. Many a times, people are not around you to help you out, or you're not in a state of mind that you really want to listen to someone. So these things.
Yeah. And for those where it's that where you don't want to get out of bed, and I do also understand that, unfortunately, the way to combat that is if you can get out of bed, like literally, you got to get out of bed. If you know, everyone might have those moments, but if it's something that's constant, you've got to find a way to get out. And
Mm.
then if you can do anything to be of service to someone else, that is the game changer as well. That is an immediate game changer. So the breath is like you're in an immediate fit mood, fierce emotion. Breath is for the fierce emotion. But long term, do something for someone else. That's it. No matter how small. No matter how small.
Very good. That's a very
Feed a stray, feed a stray cat, a stray dog. Pick up, I mean, now with the pandemic, I understand you got to be careful what you're doing for people.
yeah.
Well, whatever you can do, staying safe and healthy, but anything, drive food to the food bank. I
That's
don't know, like anything you can do for another person is going to change, is going to more permanently, it's going to be a more permanent fix. The more you do it, the more permanent that fix is. And it doesn't have to take over your life. It's just where you can fit it in. Answer the phones at the Humane Foundation or any foundation. Answer the phones anywhere. Answering the phones with a cheerful voice is almost every organization needs that desperately.
yeah, definitely.
Answer, whatever work chats or emails or whatever, whatever you do, whatever the thing that's easy for you that you can share, just share anything is going to change, is going to be the way to more permanent change. Although I will say I have to keep doing those things because the moods can come back, they do. It's not, I'm not perfect, and I still have to work these tools to the best of my ability, pretty much almost every day. It's just, it's not laborious. It doesn't have to be. It's just, I'm trying to, I am trying to get permanent change. I am trying to do that. So whatever I have to do is what I'm going to do.
This is something so interesting to know that since you already went through these things and personally have experienced them, now this has become a purpose for your life. Isn't it
Mhm.
so beautiful? Using the bad moments or not so good moments in your life as a purpose for higher, uplifting others. This is something very, very good to see.
Mhm. Yes. Yeah, it is. It is. And like I said, it's not even, obviously we're not getting paid for this, you know, that's not about that. There's no money, no fame, no worldly anything is what this is about.
Yeah.
This is really about me trying to pay whatever little bit, whatever relief and recovery I have from, that depression and and those addiction issues, is paying that forward or just putting it out there. I'm just putting it out there. I'm not, whether someone takes it or not, I can't, that has nothing to do with me. But I'm putting it out there, and I'm there, and definitely there, for support as well.
Thank you, Laurie. I think it was a really nice talking to you to know about your journey. I know it has been tough for you, but seeing you so cheerful now with a purpose ahead in life, this makes me feel very happy. And I'm really feeling so happy and blessed to know you personally, to
Oh.
have met you and as a person whom I feel that we are soulmates. We were supposed to meet together.
Oh, oh, how nice. Now you wouldn't have said that 30 years ago. There you go. There you go. That's beautiful. But seriously, that's beautiful. Thank you. And I do feel the same way about you. And these are the gifts, of of this what do you want to say, family, so to speak, or, following this way, or, working these, practicing positivity through kindness, compassion, and unconditional love, this is the payoff that I'm talking about.
Definitely. It has really. Thank you so much. I hope the
Thank
viewers
you.
who have been listening to you, they might have felt the positivity through you, and they might have felt the need that they try and experience this recovery meditation if they are in need of something. And I would like to request the viewers, if you or any of your family members or friends, if you think that they need some kind of a help in coming out of any depression state or any kind of addiction, so please feel free to contact us. You can contact us through, I think, Mohanji Acharya's page is one thing. I think in Facebook, Mohanji Acharya's page is there where you can reach out to us and we can direct you to Laurie. And if you want to know more about Mohanji, how Mohanji works, and what are the different kinds of things available and different techniques available through him, so you can visit mohanji.org, and you can find different kinds of meditations and other techniques. And I hope this session was something that had a positive impact on you all who all are listening to it. Thank you so much for joining us and listening to us. And thank you, Laurie, for joining. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for asking me. Jay Mohanji.
Thank you.
Thank you.